Now, before we end our local and state roundup, we turn our attention to a special interview with one of our own voices here at WJSU, weatherman and student Jarrett Claiborne. This past weekend, Jarrett won a writing contest that netted $1,000 during the 5th Annual Creative Arts Festival at Jackson State University. The event also celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Rides, a historic event challenging segregated seating on buses across the South. As part of the arts segment, Jarrett submitted a paper about skin, race, and pride. He recounted living his earlier years as a white boy, even though he is African American. His classmates referred to him as white because of his light complexion and good grades. Jarrett shares his winning story with us to shed light on race, culture, and acceptance on his African American heritage. Hi, Jarrett. Thank you so much, man. Hey, look, congratulations again on winning the competition. Look, although you are our weatherman, we bring you, we bring you to the microphone this time in a different capacity to gauge the temperature, if you will, of race relations and self-identity. The first question I'll address you is, the piece you wrote, Essay on Skin, Race, and Pride, addresses race relations and identity, particularly in the African American community. Could you tell us what was your motivation behind writing this paper?
Hey, first of all, Stone, thank you so much for the interview. As in response to your question, the theme of the essay competition was African American experience in the South. And so while I was thinking about writing. Before I wrote, I was thinking about something that would perhaps be of interest to other people. And so I thought about a personal experience. I could have easily written about something differently, but I chose a more personal experience to capture the audience.
Yeah, that's going to come to my next question. What makes your essay compelling is your usage of personal experience. Okay. Just how has that affected you as a person?
I guess more so early in my life than now, because I've actually come to the point where I actually realized that I am not white. And looking at me, Stone, you're like, how in the world can you not know that you're black? But then that also gives you the scope of the magnitude of how my mentality was. I was told growing up, I grew up in I was educated at a school that was perhaps, in my paper I said I never had a classmate that was another race.
Right.
From kindergarten to high school graduation.
Right.
And so there had to be some sort of separation amongst the students. And so they called the lighter skinned kids, and I think this still is a prevalent issue in the black community, most of the lighter skinned children called them white boy or white girl, and would say things such as, white boy gets grades because he's white.
Right.
Or
that's
white girl.
It's sort of a social stigma.
Exactly.
That's embedded so much into our society, especially amongst the African American community.
Exactly. And it's still prevalent today. And when I go back home, these things are still being said, and that people look at lighter skinned children more particularly as being this superior amongst the black community.
Right. And that brings me to here. I'm going to say, quote an excerpt from your essay. Okay. It says, I listened as the students demeaned themselves when they extolled other races and downed their own. But it made me feel good because I wasn't like the other kids, end quote. At that instance, do you feel that made you superior upon that realization?
Of course. And that's the whole theme that's the whole message around it. I felt like I was this superior amongst my African American fellow students because I had a skin complexion that was perhaps closer to that of what they viewed as superior. So you can actually get this sort of thing where the closer you are to this point of perfection, the better you are off in life. Right. And so I grew up thinking that my skin complexion was a key into the world of white acceptance. And I also grew up thinking that I was going to be accepted in all cases by the white community. Of course, not the case.
Right.
And when I actually got that hard reality, there was a time for me to actually change.
Right, and that brings me to the point. It seemed improbable that you would even attend an HBCU, given that you grew up with this mentality, say, well, my skin is going to be a key to, white acceptance. But you ended up, wouldn't you know it, at Jackson State University, rather than one of the so-called comprehensive Mississippi universities.
Exactly.
Does this suggest that you had accepted your true identity?
Great question, Stone. But you know what? I told the producer this. I actually did not want to come to Jackson State.
Really?
And perhaps one of the things that I don't want to go to that black school, all those black people. But when I came here, I had to learn to appreciate the culture of this place. And I am so much in debt to Jackson State because of the things that they've taught me here, the richness of my heritage, and I'll forever be true to my dear old college home. And so I actually did want to go to two white schools, University of Louisiana Lafayette, the University of Louisiana Monroe, and Mississippi State, were two in consideration. Both of them had a meteorology program.
Yes, they do.
And I came to Jackson State. I actually did not want to. When I was a freshman, I cried actually because I was here. I was in my room and said, "Mom, I don't want to go to school." But like I said, Jackson State, I owe them a lot. I'm in debt to the slave mentality that they brought me out of.
That's great. Great enlightenment will come upon coming here. And this is my final question, Jarrett. What you said earlier that the race relations and tensions are still prevalent today. Like you said, you went back to your old hometown and still exist. What do you believe is in the future for racial identity, particularly within the African American community?
Wow, that's a difficult question. So actually, I don't know. That's one of those difficult questions where you actually have to dig deep into the statistics of it and actually do some sort of research and look inside of it. But actually now I can say that if this issue isn't addressed, that we could have people that are molded by people like me who are molded by falsehood and lies. So I definitely think that if that issue isn't addressed, that some of the same things that I went through, it could be also detrimental to those who are darker skinned.
Right.
We actually have to look at that aspect of it as well.
Right. The cause and effect relationship.
Exactly.
There may not be individuals who come to the realization.
Exactly. So you can actually think about the kids that are darker skinned who are looked down upon as amongst their student colleagues.
And something certainly that needs to be addressed. And we appreciate so much that you've written this paper. Hopefully you can write a whole lot more. We can get you back. We can get you out, not just on the air, but maybe in the book writing department. Thanks so much. Jarrett Claiborne, everybody. We're all proud of him. Hey, look, we're going to cut to a very short break here on WJSU.